Now, granted, the visibility isn't going to be great because of the glare of the sun. I'm stealing Wi-Fi from a nearby establishment while in my car here. But this just really intrigued me. I had heard things about Jordan Peterson ostensibly making some kind of speech or giving some kind of presentation to some sort of globalist entity. I couldn't. I mean, I'd heard whispers about it, but here it is. It's right here on YouTube. I thought maybe it was the WEF, but it's not. It's the Trilateral Commission, which has its own YouTube channel, just like the WEF does. But the title of the video is "A Provocation: Will Democracy Survive?" It's from 5 years ago. It doesn't have that many views. It has like 6,000 views, and it doesn't mention Jordan Peterson by name, but it's definitely him. So if you want to look it up, you can find it just on YouTube. Just type in Jordan Peterson Trilateral Commission. Now, what intrigued me? Well, let's watch a little bit of this. Again, I know visibility is limited, but it's not really that important that you see it all that well. It's 42nd European meeting.
What can we do in order for democracy to survive? So I would like that to be the main theme for our conversation, and I can simply leave it with at that and ask you, so what does it take and what can we do?
Well,
so the question is, what can we do to make democracy survive? That's a really weird. It's really weird how these people who clearly don't believe in democracy, who clearly believe in going above the citizenry of countries and imposing their will, supposedly, ostensibly, for the betterment of the world, but they frame it as, protecting democracy. So this is, what's Jordan doing? What's Dr. Peterson doing at this gathering in the first place? And this is not a Photoshop deal. This is not AI. This is 5 years old. As I said, it's the site that belongs to the Trilateral Commission. And so they ask him what he does. How do we protect democracy? And here's what he says. Let's play a little bit of this.
I should tell you first what I've been talking to people about. So my wife and I have been on a 100-city tour since January. And I've spoken to about 250,000 people over the course of that, in Australia and New Zealand and throughout the US and Canada, and some in Europe, mostly in the UK and in the Scandinavian countries. I'm coming back here in March and April to go through the South.
So he's talked to a lot of people. I'm going to stop this occasionally. I know it's annoying, but I don't know if this will get copyright claimed. Probably won't, because it's out there. I mean, they don't really care that it's out there. But anyway, so he's
at the east. When I speak to audiences, I always watch people one by one.
Pouring a drink.
To the crowd. And I always listen to the entire audience, because what I'm trying to manage when I'm speaking is to put everybody in the same place so that there's dead silence. Because if there's dead silence, that means that everybody's concentrating on the same thing, and that everybody has come to a collective agreement that that thing is of substantive importance.
Okay.
And the most reliable means of silencing an audience of 2,500 people, regardless of where that is around the world, is to make a strong case for the relationship between suffering, meaning, and responsibility.
Okay, that's the way to really quiet a crowd, is to make a strong case for suffering, for the relationship between suffering, meaning, and responsibility. That's how you that's how you get a crowd to quiet down and really, like, really? That, like, what kind of people are you talking to? I mean, I see. I mean, I would just think, if you started to talk about something like that, if you introduce that topic to a crowd of 2,500 people, their eyes are going to glaze over. They're not going to care. They don't understand what you're talking about. It's too highfalutin sounding. It's not really even clear what it means, you know. So that's kind of strange that like, in this lengthy preamble, he says, this is my trick for getting them all to pay attention to me about democracy, and you know, is the relationship between suffering, I can't even remember it now, suffering, meaning, and responsibility. Okay, proceed.
And the case for suffering, I think, is quite obvious, because one of the things that I point out to my listeners is that life has a tragic element, and we all are perfectly aware of that, and that we're subject to that as fragile and finite creatures, and that tragic element is amplified by the human proclivity for malevolence at a psychological level and at a social level. And that's the reality that we find ourselves confronted with eternally, in some sense.
Okay, so there's a tragic element to reality, and it's amplified by the capacity for malevolence on the part of, I don't remember how he just put it, but he's talking to a group. He's talking to this powerful, this hugely powerful, immensely moneyed organization, the Trilateral Commission, and you know, which has you know, politicians, powerful politicians, and oligarchs, and you know, world shaping and shaking people within its auspices. And he's talking about malevolence as if it were something originating from somewhere else besides this group of people that the organization that has organized this, the organization that's brought this meeting together, wherein, and that has invited him to speak. So I don't know, it seems like a disconnect there.
And that the proper antidote to that is not the pursuit of happiness, and it's not even the existence of the individual rights that are part of the substructure of democratic society, but the willingness to accept voluntary responsibility for those preconditions and then working to rectify them. And the corollary of that is that it's almost inevitably the case that people find the meaning that sustains themselves through suffering, and that enables them to be motivated sufficiently to constrain their own malevolence, is to be found in the adoption of responsibility.
All right, so he's talking about how to keep people, I mean, he's not phrasing it this way, but he's talking about how to keep people under control, really, isn't he? He's saying it's a way to restrain their malevolence. Is the way to restrain people's malevolence is to draw attention to their capacity for suffering and assist them to prioritize their responsibility. All right, and all this is like an answer to the question: how do we defend democracy? Which I don't think the Trilateral Commission cares about democracy, quote unquote. But anyway, let's let him cook a little more.
And it's surprising that a message that has that much weight, let's say, and that little frivolity, because there's no frivolity, let's say, in that, silences people.
Yeah, that is interesting. That I have my doubts that's what that you actually get a crowd of 2,500 people. Just unless you're talking about, I mean, are you talking about academics or, you know, people like that? If it's just like a random sampling of 2,500 people, this doesn't sound like the most thrilling conversation piece. You know, not like a way to really get them to be silent. I don't know. It sounds it sounds weird to me. Something's off about that. Something's off about a lot of this. I think you'll agree with me on that, starting with the fact that Jordan Peterson, conservative commentator extraordinaire, is talking to a group like the Trilateral Commission, this globalist entity. Why did they invite him? Why did he go? I mean, a lot of questions that I have. Now, I'm not going to subject you to any more of this, this event. The other thing I would just want to say about this, something else that makes that I find interesting, is that you know, if you get up in front of people and you sound authoritative, which he does, he sounds very self-possessed and he speaks with great authority, but not with a great deal of coherence necessarily. I don't know, I'm not going to call this gibberish, because I think I can follow a line of reasoning with it, but I don't know, I don't know exactly what he's talking about, but he holds their attention. He holds the attention of these Trilateral Commission members, even, because he just sounds authoritative. And that's something that maybe you can just divorce from the rest of this whole video, and just, that's a subject unto itself. Like, you go and speak to a bunch of people, you can say about anything, just about anything, as long as you sound like you know what you're talking about and like you're self-assured. You just can't give away that you maybe don't know what you're saying. Like, people, if people sense your insecurity, they're going to stop listening, they're going to stop respecting you as a speaker. But if you just proceed with an authoritative tone of voice, and you show it doesn't hurt to have a good vocabulary, then people are going to defer to you, even whether or not you're saying anything of real substance, whether or not what you have to say is truly relevant to the question you've been asked. So that's a very interesting thing to see. Anyway, make of it what you will. I'm very interested in what anybody's commentary on this. Thanks for watching.